as well, wherever you are on the planet. Today is nice and sunny here in Southern California, and we are here to interact in a very special way. Every Tuesday at noon Pacific, we have the opportunity to talk about technology, fun stuff, projects, you name it. I also want to talk today about something that was really exciting this past weekend with a couple of events that we attended. And before we begin, I'd like to be able to say hi to each and every one of you as you continue to join, and thank you so much. And also thank you for participating last weekend in some of the live opportunities that we explored all across Southern California. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Belize818. Appreciate your kind words. Appreciate you for joining as well. And guys, Rollins Kitchens from San Diego. Oh my goodness, good to see you indeed. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. So this past weekend, we had opportunity to participate in a very nice Cars and Coffee, courtesy of our friends at Porsche, Ontario. Tech Moto, good day to you as well. Thank you so much, Belize818. Belize is here indeed. And for those of you on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. I see Sam is here. Hello, Sam, sir, who's a very talented fabricator, helped me with lots of builds here, including the ones that we had this past weekend in Ontario and also parts of Orange County. He's very talented fellow racer, someone who I met through the racing circles. And for those of you who don't join me on YouTube, by all means, guys, when you're done here, please do subscribe at the Bisimoto YouTube channel. You can't miss it at all. We have lots of fun stuff that goes on there every week around projects in house. Leo 930, hello, good seeing you. Recon Chief is in the house. Thank you so much for joining, Recon Chief Inc. Appreciate you indeed. And as I was saying before, Sam is very talented. Not only is he a talented racer and coder, also a very good designer as well. And he helped with everything from the center seat to the rear wheel drive conversions on the lovely Hyundai Santa Fe or Santa Fe we built not too long ago. Helped with the very popular Harman Kardon supported Hyundai Tucson as well. And helped with 3 center seat Porsches, which is pretty exciting indeed, and a turbo kit accordingly as well. Do we sell any more AF22 Accord parts, says JBT Win 286? Yes, we do. If you go on the Bisimoto website, bisimoto.com, into a web store, you'll see a slew of components we sell. Valve train, camshafts. If you need special things like cam gears or clutches, just send us an email and we can make it happen for you. The LW collection also on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you indeed. And for those on the podcasting networks, thank you so much for participating, whether they're using the loo, jogging, working out, whatever the case may be. I appreciate you indeed. And for those of you who don't know this, you can do a search on Bisimoto in your favorite podcast networks, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, you name it, we are there. Do you have B-Series VTEC heads in-house, says FM8? No, we do not. I don't have any Cinder heads here, VTEC in nature at this time. I may have a few Porsche ones, but nothing on the Honda VTEC side. Ricky, Unfiltered, hello, brother. Hopefully you are well. Missed you this weekend at the very nice Cars and Coffees that happened this past Saturday at the Porsche, Ontario. Jonathan and I had the opportunity to take 2 very similar but different cars, one petrol, one EV, both 935 tributes in tote, which was great. Corvolt has arrived, as you see. Thank you so much, Corvolt, for being part of this interaction. A fellow engineer, someone who's building a very nice Corvette EV, and always has some great tidbits on how we can make our mobility solutions even more exciting. My pleasure indeed, JBT Win 286. Once again, go to the Bisimoto website. We still do have some Silcam Honda parts on there. If there's something that's lacking, hit us up. We may have something on arsenal, or short term make something happen for you very nicely. And then later on, I did get a call from Amy Shackerford. So thank you so much, Amy, from the Gear One agency, who had me go over to Crystal Cove to the Newport Beach Aston Martin dealership, where they launched the new Vantage, which is pretty cool and very nice, much wider, much more powerful, much more advanced in terms of technology. It's really cool indeed. Belize818 is asking, do I like RWB Porsches? I do. Years ago, they were more of a hot boy kind of thing. But nowadays, I have seen a lot more RWBs that are modified heavily, so where the performance matches the looks. So you can imagine the early RWBs were just either standard G bodies or 964s or even occasional 993s that had a wide body kit, like an exaggerated GT2 setup. And with that, you have a lot more, track width, bigger tires, heavier and wider wheels, more bodywork that makes it a little bit more heavier, more resistance to, how should I say, traveling through the wind, so a lot more, resistance around the aero, and that on a stock car would actually make a stock car slower than normal. So I wasn't happy earlier on with the sunbursts and the RWBs because I felt they just looked the part, but the performance didn't match the speed. But recently I've seen some supercharger setups, turbocharged setups that we even helped with as well. I've seen some LS swaps into RWBs, and now, that being said, I see some performance that matches the looks of the car. Alberto Capetillo says something that's quite popular in the purist community where it says RWB destroys the Porsches. That's terrible. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Once again, what Nakai has done doesn't deviate significantly from what you'll see on racetracks with GT2 style classic Porsches. It's just slightly exaggerated. Sometimes the customer base kind of makes it look too hot boy, which is okay. Everyone's style is different. But I've been pleased to see some performance that matches the looks. And Nakai himself and some of the group that he hangs around with in Japan, they do track those pretty hard. So that lends some credibility to the brand indeed. Yeah, Outlaw, I concur indeed. I concur. Shane is here from Carcraft Van Hollister. Thank you, Shane. Shane has been a great advocate for Bisimoto for many years. He has a facility in the Riverside area known as Carcraft that does a wonderful job in building, restoring, and creating some VW-based platforms, whether it's from street to strip to even off-road. And he's a place I typically go to when I want to get some things coated locally as well. So if you need some ceramic coating or some components for your air-cooled or even water-cooled VW, he has a ton of stuff in stock. Just a great guy indeed, and his team is magnificent. Corvoda said, what's the lowdown on that VCU 275 is AM pushing? Is it direct replacement or upgrade of the VCU 200? More of a minor update? No, it's a major update. So, I don't know how much I'm at liberty to share in terms of the architecture between the two, where there are two chip manufacturers that are involved, but the VCU 275 has many advances compared to the VCU 200. And the one thing that's pretty cool is that if you already have a VCU 200, it's not too terrible updating from a 200 to a 275. In addition to that, the support for the 275 is much more robust. You can do a lot more to be able to control analog gauges that you couldn't see with the VCU 200. The architecture is quite nice indeed and looks really more motorsports in my opinion, if you ask me. But above and beyond that, I will have some intimate knowledge of 275 in the next few months. Right now, I still do have some 200s in the house, which I'm playing around with. But nonetheless, stay tuned. I'll have some major stuff to share with you around my own insights. The architecture in terms of the software for the controller itself is the same. So you can use the same architecture and templates that you're comfortable with around the VC200s. But just the architecture with the module itself, with the VCU, is quite an improvement. Much faster, much more robust, and looks better too, in my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Thank you so much. Mad Mac GR from Ohio, thank you for joining. 1J Bunny, hello. Thank you so much for joining indeed. Is it possible to do a little tour of the shop? Not in this configuration. Plus, as my team can attest, we do have some kind of secretive projects. This one right here next to me that can't be seen until it's done. So at this point, it's kind of a bad idea to do a tour around the facility. The showroom may be okay. I do have multiple equipment here, Leo MR. I have the Instagram feed going. I have you going on YouTube. I also have the podcasting going. It's kind of hard to navigate all three and walk around the shop. So what I could do is probably do something a little bit more unique and dedicated to that as soon as we kind of cover this project. Actually, there are a couple projects that we can put out there. So we can cover those up and I'll be more than happy to oblige. It's a typical shop. This is not like a lab or some kind of medical facility where we have white floors and that fun stuff. The team and I, we actually do some work here and it gets a little untidy, but nonetheless, very productive. Let's see here. Oh, so we'll talk about this weekend. Start for Porsche Ontario, and Jonathan and I were there. Jonathan drove the blue M16, which is pretty cool. He loves that petrol car. And then I took the M16, I took out the K3V with me. And we went out there, I think we arrived a little bit before 8 a.m. The one thing I like about that event is the camaraderie that existed between all type of Porsche files. There were people with 928s, 944s. There was one 914 there. I expected to see more, which is quite sad because I think those cars are pretty cool. Being a very tight, nice portable mid-engine. The gentleman who I fondly refer to as my dad, Carlos, will be building one very soon. That's more of a Group 5 kind of setup. And that entail kind of maybe light some fire around some 914s in Southern California to come out and make the trek to local events. There are a lot of water-cooled items there as well, which, believe it or not, yes, 996s are not considered classic Porsches, even though they're water-cooled. So there was something that I was very excited to see. There was a GT2 RS that was there. That was a 997 style, which is extremely rare to see, and that was really fun to see out there at the event. The occasional 336 was there as well, which is nice. It's a very clean red coupe that was quite beautiful and attracting a lot of attention and raised some eyebrows. And Porsche Ontario had the opportunity to unveil their newest submission into the Porsche Classic Restoration Challenge. The first one they did was an early G-body Targa from 2.5 years ago. That was the first time the inaugural event for Porsche. Porsche Ontario won, which is great. So that was pretty exciting indeed to see that. And they tried again the following year with more of an RS style 964. And then this year they're trying out with something a little bit more modern and a little more exciting as well, which is a little water cooled, which is pretty cool, you know? What is the best Porsche to purchase for 30 to 40K and why? Asked Mac GR. Now, I may be a little biased with this because even though one particular model in the Porsche lineup is extremely popular because it's very prestigious, in terms of handling and the opportunities to have a lot of tunability, the one I'm about to share with you is one that's really, really exciting, one that I find very appealing. And that is the Porsche Cayman S. Mid-engine Porsche. When you do some modifications to kind of match similar or newer era 911s, and you take that on the road, on the track, you'll notice that that thing is absolutely tossable, extremely forgiving, handles much better than the very popular 911, which tends to be really rear heavy. And as you have any spirited driving, you may tend to experience a little bit of oversteer. There's a lot of neutrality that exists with the Porsche Cayman, and it's one of the reasons why I fell in love with it so much. And as Sam has kind of attested to, we had the opportunity to take something that's really Porsche with a mid-engine setup and make it even more Porsche with a center drive and made it even more tossable. So the reasons why I find that appealing, one is that it has the ability to be a very neutral 50-50 almost setup, which makes it a lot of fun in and out of the canyons, on and off the track. Secondly, very tunable, especially if you look at the 987S version, which you can find in the upper 20s to lower 30s. If you're lucky, you may be able to find a 981, which is the newer version with direct injection in the 40s. But that, by all means, is one that I find extremely appealing and something that's fantastic. It has a modern look, which hasn't aged at all, and it's a lot of fun. Now, if you have the budget to kind of bump that a little bit more into the 50s, as I mentioned this weekend at Porsche Ontario, the 996 Turbo is an underrated supercar. I've seen some clean examples go up to 60 and 70,000, but you may still be able to find something in the 50s, which is pretty amazing. Being all-wheel drive, turbocharged, and having a mostly indestructible gearbox, with slight modifications of a turbo and a flash and intercooler upgrades, you can easily eclipse the 600 horsepower range with something that is definitely a lot of fun. And if you want to make it a little bit more tossable, you can remove the front axles and create a rear-wheel drive monster that's a fun beast to drive. And that's something I've done as well with some cars in-house. It's pretty nice. JB Twin says, I ordered y'all's 9-to-1 piston rod combo for the F-Series turbo build. Also level 1.2 turbo regrind, good choices. I'm about to replace the rings. Would you recommend a block guard if not installed prior? No, I would not recommend a block guard. And I'll tell you why I say that. As you look into the Siamese cylinders that exist in some of the inline 4 Honda engines, especially those that are earlier, you'll notice that there's a water jacket that goes around there. The highest part of the cylinder is also the hottest part of the cylinder as well. And when you incorporate a block guard, the unfortunate thing that happens is that the expansivity of the guard itself differs from the surroundings, whether you're looking at the steel impregnated sleeves or the outer casings of the block itself. And what we've seen is at operating temperature, it tends to distort the top of the cylinder. Now, the only one good thing I've seen with block guards, if you don't mind the distortion, which I do mind, is if you ever crack a sleeve, it kind of saves it from cracking even further down. What I tend to do if I'm going to push the power to be able to require some type of integrity around my sleeve, I'll just save up and break bread and sleeve the block entirely. Putting block guards are big no-nos. We've seen scuffing with it. We've seen blow-by just because of the distortion that happens, because that little block guard on top is a small surface area that's pushed in or almost pressed in, and then tends to expand quite rapidly and kind of distort the cylinder sleeves. It's not a good deal. So do what I've done, save up, whether it takes you a month or a year, save up and get a proper sleeve block from, let's say, like a Golden Eagle. And then you'll be on a good track to make a lot of good, reliable power. And JB Twin again says, I know the 95 Accord is older, but I love mine and always want to pick your brain on its capabilities. Well, the Accord is a potent setup. The F22s are one of my most favorite engines when it comes to inline four. It's so amazing that it doesn't have more aftermarket support, because in factory form, especially the F22A non-VTEC, that head in factory form flows more than most ported B series. So you can imagine if the head holds the highest potential for power, you can imagine how having an F22A and putting the right components in it can net you a lot of reliable, cost-effective power, just based upon how the head flows and the opportunities that lie within. I'll buy your Porsche, says Mike G. Let me know which one you have in mind. For $5, sorry, I can't sell the Porsche for $5, Mike G. I'd love to, but I cannot. Kevin S's have a 4.0. I've seen people punch them out. They don't come with 4.0 directly, not from factory. There are a big displacement GT4 RSs that exist, which in my opinion is the ultimate Porsche. Seriously, if you don't mind having a vehicle that's not a 2+2 and just having a standard two-seater, the GT4 RS is absolutely a monster. It's the closest thing to a track car that you can get that's street legal, indeed. Got a new project underway. It says 1J Bunny, a 91 S13 with a K24 and CD on. Nice. So you went with a Nissan gearbox, eh? Those things are pretty potent as well. And are you saying K24 as in the Nissan, or are you doing K24 as in the Honda? Let me know. I'm very curious. But I love your CD009 choice. That's pretty good. What engine management are you going to recommend? It says the 1J Bunny. Now that gets interesting. For many a season, I've always recommended the AEM, whether it was a Series 1, the Series 2, or ultimately the Infinity. Unfortunately for us, Harley had discontinued that sometime last year. So what I'm looking to nowadays in terms of engine management, if you cannot afford something as robust as a Motec, are M-Trons. I'm starting to look into M-Tron engine management solutions and all of the features that it does offer without you having to pay for multiple upgrades whenever you want to do that. So that's the case. That's the case indeed. Mike G's asking, what about 996 models? So the Cayman S that I mentioned is in the 987 realm, so it's a little bit newer than the 996. The 996s, in my opinion, haven't aged very well. And if you're talking about 986, they don't really hover in the 30,000 range. 996s, I've seen them mostly in the high teens, mid to lower 20s, depending. I've rarely seen one go for 30 unless someone's just trying to take advantage of the market if possible. But once again, when it comes to my favorite Porsches, based upon a driving experience and modability, the 987s are pretty awesome, even compared to 996s. 996, for those who don't know, is the first water-cooled Porsche 911s. And the designation, like you may see with Hondas, with its EF, EKs, EP, you name it, the 996 is the first gen, and typically from 1999, I think, to 2004 is 996. But I know for sure 1999 is what kind of started. What they started manufacturing in 1998. RMC agrees, Turbo 996 is a sweetie. I concur as well. It's super under the radar indeed. Let's see here. But what year came in S? Asked Mad Mac GR. Anything from 06 and up. Anything 06 and up will be the way to go. I have one 07 here, and it's absolutely fantastic. What I did with that is I turbocharged it, and it gave me the 911 power even more than that, with the tossability and driving characteristics of a standard mid-engine Porsche. And I knew I was on the right track because rumor had it that in that time, in the late 2000s or so, even the individuals who were executives at Porsche in Germany would custom order their own Caymans with 911 engines in them. And if you look at the undercarriage of a standard, Porsche, Cayman, or Boxster, you'll see a lot of detuning going on. It's almost like on purpose, Porsche didn't want the Caymans or the Boxsters to compete with 911s. So if you look at something as simple as the header manifold coming out of it, instead of being a standard tri-Y, it was like one pipe with two others merging into it. So if you just go ahead and upgrade the headers there, you pick up a ton of power. You can flash the setup, pick up a ton of power as well. There's just so much left on the table to make that car a lot of fun. That's why it's one of my favorite vehicles to be able to modify and own. You will not go wrong. Test drive one and you will love it indeed. F20C FTW says Belize 818. I agree. I do like the F20 and F22Cs. Those are amazing setups. Those all exist in the Honda S2000s. For many, many years, they reigned supreme in terms of how much power they created in factory format per displacement. And I think until Ferrari came and kind of smacked them a little bit, but nonetheless, it is still a very potent power plant. F20Cs are known to rev to oblivion. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, the F22 and F20C vehicles have the best shifting mechanisms on this good green earth. So just being able to shift an S2000, it feels just amazing. Very positive, very, very firm. I love it. I love shifting those cars. They're just absolutely fun to drive, you know? Did you mention what year Porsche came in as? Yes, I did. 2006 and up will be the way to go. I'm not a big fan of the non-S's because of the gearing and also the lack of opportunities for a 6-speed, but also there's a lot more displacement in the S's than the non-S's. So you can't go wrong with that. And did you say a K24 Honda? That is dope. So you set up this vehicle with a K24 in a Nissan, Honda K24, made it to a CD009. That is dope. Send some photos. I'd love to be able to see that and see how it goes. You never did a walkthrough with the Rolls-Royce Project High Voltage Junction Box because it continues to evolve. So that's coming up soon. We actually have it on lift now, so it's going to be in there soon. But I'm making some changes already. What I'm trying to implement is putting in some high voltage contactors into the contactor box as well. So that's something we've done differently than having it offset separately. In that particular vehicle as well, I'm doing something clever with using CCS as an opportunity for charging. And nowadays, with NACS adapters that exist into CCS, I know Ford is on a rollout of a ton for their vehicles, for their customers as well. I'm very excited that it's the right decision for me to use right now in terms of using CCS2 because of its ubiquitous nature and also having the opportunity to explore NACS as we go out in the field. Now, there's something else that I found very recently, which is pretty exciting, makes it very exciting for some of my older conversions and some of the conversions for my customers that don't break the bank, is where using CHAdeMO, and I did find a CHAdeMO CCS adapter. So they're a little pricey right now. I'm gonna order one and try and test that in the field. Hopefully I can do a Tech2sday around that and let you know how my success has been. But yeah, I'm very excited that even with Nissan Leaf friends or individuals with the Mitsubishis or those individuals with the older Honda Fit EVs, that we now have a solution that can kind of bring us up to modern standards of fast charging capabilities. And it will be possible to have a CCS to CHAdeMO and then NACS to said CCS. That'd be a pretty big setup there, but let's see what we can do. I'm down to do the experiment. I'm down to see what's going on and make sure it happens, you know? 1J Buddy said, I got an AMV2 in my 1J Crusader, and it's great. It is amazing. Even Zach is here helping with some work here, and he has a Series 2 in his Honda. So it's an awesome, very robust platform. I love those a lot, you know? Is that chute in a trailer hitch receiver? Yes, it is. And that's why it looks kind of low, but not only does it not block the plate for me to legally drive around in California, but yes, our friends from Unplugged, they have a trailer hitch receiver in the back with this kind of mechanism that kind of comes up, pretty clever, and can hold a standard parachute. So that's exactly what's going on there, Exo Truck, and I haven't seen in a while. Hopefully you are doing well. Hello, Carols and Picks. Good seeing you. Missed you this weekend. Hopefully we can get together soon. Do you still have the 930 Turbo Cabriolet slat nose? Says All Power Albert. No, I do not. We had an offer from a gentleman overseas, and that thing left a good probably 4 years ago. And if my memory serves me correctly, it was sold to a gentleman in Finland, you know? What is your dream stock car? Unique cars included. Unique stock car. Dream. God, am I able to even recommend this as something I want? I would say the McMurty EV from the UK with a fan that kind of sucks down and allows it to exist to two-wheel drive and get more traction than most all-wheel drive setups. That to me, and it's a very small car by the way, but that looks pretty dope. For me, as I said today, that is actually my dream stock car to have. Something quite unique, and I don't think I've seen it outside of CES here in the United States. I've never seen one on the road. I don't know if anyone owns one in Southern California, but that is my ultimate indeed. Thank you so much, Oppie Kopi. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see here. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to block you on YouTube here. Sorry about that. Let's see. 9K all day, says Belize 818. Yes, it is. If you like higher RPM engines, you'll love some of the stuff we're doing here with the EVs. They rev at a very sky high 18,500 RPMs, right? Bananas. Wait, CCS? Do you have advanced preview versions of AEM BMS 18 firmware that supports CCS? No, I do not. So my mindset hasn't changed, Corvold. I still use Eward Energy components for my BMSs. And what I have done is I've recruited the assist of this one particular company in Belgium that sells a controller that seamlessly integrates with Orion BMSs to allow for CCS protocols to exist. So that being said, I do not have any special versions of the BMS 18 firmware that supports it. I think one of the engineers at AEM has done something clever using the AEM dash to do some CAN protocol conversions to allow for a CCS module to exist with AEM, but I haven't experienced that firsthand. I'm still using the standard Eward Energy protocols to be able to make that a reality in my projects. Lambda Menace, good seeing you, brother. Hopefully you're feeling well today. For those of you who do not know Lambda Menace, he was at the most recent Porsche Ontario event. Local guy. One thing I love about this chap is that he really does a good job in integrating form and function. And I mean that. He builds one of the most craziest Genesis and Hyundai vehicles. And he doesn't just do what most people do where they just pay attention to aesthetics. Or in my case, I may leave a body completely stock and go crazy with a power plant. He does a combination of the two. He merges the two. The need for speed and the need for aesthetics. Better yet, form and function combined. So appreciate you, Lambda Menace. Looking forward to more projects from you as time progresses. All right. My pleasure indeed, Exo Truck. He said his current build that he's working on will have a hitch receiver. Glad to know I can multi-purpose it. Absolutely. With much success. Go on the website when we're done for Unplugged Performance. Take a look at it, and you'll pretty much show with you what they did. It's pretty clever indeed, you know? Make sure to hit the thumb up in the description, says George Dice. Thank you so much. Appreciate that indeed. Miss you as well. Opie copy. All right. Things are going well, Connor Titus. We're very fortunate to have some good weather today. Yesterday was weird, very Florida-like in terms of climate. And what I mean by that is we had this weird brief moment. I don't know if you guys saw it where you lived, but we had this brief moment of torrential downpour, and then it stopped, and then the sun came out. I have not seen that in Southern California in a very long time, if ever to that magnitude. Usually when I go to Florida or parts of Texas, like Austin, you'll see the bright sunlight, and then all of a sudden clouds come up very quickly, and then torrential downpour, and skies clear up again. We had that here in SoCal yesterday. It was really strange. Something really mad is going on with our climate systems recently, but hey, what can we do? Take the best of it, make the best of it, I should say. Yeah, tropical weather, absolutely, 1J Bunny in SoCal. It's pretty bananas. And from what I gather, more tropical weather is to come. Monday, we're supposed to have some kind of weird weather system, and I think El Nino is going to come and do some crazy things. It's going to be pretty bananas. But anyway, Dapper Dabber 710, good afternoon. Good seeing you as well. Dapper Dabber, you would have loved the event that I went to this particular weekend at the Newport Beach Aston Martin dealership. It was pretty nice. They had a Formula One vehicle there, which is pretty cool. And then they had on display the brand new Vantage, which is wider, more powerful, more advanced, more stance, more aero. It's just absolutely fantastic. And it was good, you know? J.E. Roper said something that is very contrary to my experience. He says Hyundai engines are unreliable. That has not been my experience at all. If anything, one of my favorite V6 engines are the Lambda V6 3.8 GDIs from Hyundai. Those things look like workhorses. If I was told they were designed for trucks to overachieve, I wouldn't doubt it. And I'll share with you why I say that. Not only do we, reliably push over 1,100 horsepower in a old school BK Genesis coupe, when you take apart the bottom end of that particular power plant, it has 6 bolt mains. 6 bolt mains, I mean, it's crazy. You know how you have Chevy performance engines and 6 bolt mains or something that's an option for high performance? It exists in factory format on these Lambda Hyundai V6 engines. The ports are huge, the largest ports I've ever seen on an internal combustion engine that has come through this shop. Larger than what I see on Porsche, like 3.4 and 3.8 engines. Crazy. And then we tested it, and it has its own like kind of cam control for the intake. where we have successfully, widened the spectrum in terms of torque. It's just fantastic. And I beat the crap on that thing. For a good year straight, I ran that thing with intake temps in triple digits, boost, and did not even hurt anything at all. Modified camshafts, put it in there. More lift than I thought I could shake a stick at. Almost at bind, did not have any problems at all. Those engines are amazing. And not only did we take that engine out, I now sold it to someone who put in his Mustang, and I think he's almost done. Sam, you may know him if it's done yet. And it's still chugging along. So based on my experience, whether it's that or the inline 4 engines, like the Theta that I've used on some of the power plants we built for Hyundai Motors America, I have not seen a ton of reliability issues. Now, if you're referring to the earlier Hyundai Excels, yes, we saw a lot of challenges with that, but that could also be a double-edged sword. And what do I mean by that? Back in the day when Hyundai first hit the US market, they had a Hyundai Excel that existed. That Hyundai Excel was a very cost-effective vehicle, and unfortunately, a lot of people who bought those cars didn't maintain them very well. If you don't maintain a car, guess what? No matter how good they are, they will eventually break down. So was it that their engineering wasn't sound, even though they had a good partnership with Mitsubishi at the time? Or was it the fact that most people who bought those cars didn't care or didn't do a good job maintaining them, and that's why we saw some failures? But fast forward to today, I've been extremely impressed with everything that's come out of that Korean company. They have been really doing a great job with engineering and reliability as well. And when it comes to styling, they have had some really good influence from Europe. Not only have they taken designers from Mercedes-Benz and BMW, but they continue to crank out some really reliable things from time to time, and I've been impressed. One thing that may not even mean much to any of you, but I was really excited about, is as we build project cars for Hyundai Motors America and we take them apart, under the carpet is painted nicely as the outside. It's like the attention to detail with something that you'll never see ever, probably ever, but we do as taking things out shows that they have a lot of attention to detail and pride in their work. Meanwhile, as I look at some of the very popular brands, someone just mentioned Toyota, you take apart the carpet and it's just barely sometimes even any paint there at all, just some sealant and that's it. So that being said, yeah, there are good opportunities there. Good opportunities from Hyundai. I'm very proud of how far they've come all these years. All right, guys, let's see here. There was another question that came in I missed. I keep blocking the people from YouTube. I'm so sorry about that. Let me restart this app here. My podcasting is misbehaving. I don't know what's going on. I may have to use another phone. I use some Apple-based products for both my YouTube and my Instagram, but on my podcasting, I use an old Android, and it seems to be misbehaving a lot. So I'm gonna try and reboot this and see if we can get that going once again. Please bear with me, team. Appreciate you. Let's try that again. All right, let's see here. What did I miss? 1J Bunny say, I'd love to know your thoughts on systems like Pedal Commander and the like. I've got a 21 Tiguan and I love some more oomph out of it, but I don't want it crazy because it's the daily. Well, for those of you who know what Pedal Commander are, that's pretty much a device that is almost like an advanced version of the AFCs that we had years ago, but not even to that extent. A lot of pedal commanders I've seen intercept the signal from the ECU and the pedal assembly to allow you to simulate a higher throttle and more power, when many times you actually do not. And what do I mean by that? Years ago, I had the opportunity to build a CRZ for American Honda. It's still right there in the corner. And what I noticed is that it had 3 modes, and those 3 modes existed as Eco, Standard, and Sport. And so here I am like, oh my God, this is amazing. As I drive around the Eco, it feels really sluggish. As I drive in the normal mode, it feels great. And as I drive the Sport mode, it feels even faster. So I go on a dyno, on our dyno pack here, and I try to quantify the difference in power for each pull. And you know what I found out? Eco, Normal, and Sport all had the same full throttle power output. So that really confused me, like what's going on? So my dyno also has an OBD2 scanner built in, so I kind of plug that in and start playing around with the dyno, doing partial throttle and full throttle runs. In full throttle, they're all 100%, nothing different, nothing with timing, nothing, just throttle. But as I did partial throttle readings, I noticed that in Eco mode, when I was at about 50%, it was giving me like 10% throttle at the throttle body. When I was in Sport mode, if I was at 50%, it was giving me almost 80% as I was driving around at 50. So what was happening? It was tricking me by varying the throttle plate opening based upon my foot input on the throttle pedal. The pedal commander does something very similar. It gives you opportunity to fool or to spoof the ECU into thinking that it's doing something different. So when you're driving and you're barely putting throttle in, it feels like you're going faster, right? But all you're doing is opening throttle further for the same foot input. You're not necessarily making more power per se. What I tend to prefer, 1J Bunny, even with factory cars, is a very elegant flashing solution. You have many companies that can give you flashing solutions that do not hurt the engine, but take advantage of some of the power that most OEMs leave on the table. So if you go to a reputable source to give you a flash, there are many companies out there from Cobb to APR that have these stage 1, stage 2 flashes. That'll be something to explore. Then a pedal commander that all it does is spoof the ECU into giving you more throttle output at the pedal. More throttle output at the throttle than what you put in at the pedal. I hope that helps. It's a very popular thing to do. Most people wouldn't care less about what's going on, but many times it doesn't give you much power output. What I've done in engine management solutions, even when it comes to EVs, is not only do we do something in terms of throttle, but I increase torque commands outputs on EVs and allow a little bit more timing or a little less timing depending on what mode I am in on petrol cars. So yeah, that sounds well. Bearing Detailing Services says, let's work. I'll take a look and see what you have in mind. Have a good day as well, Bearing Detailing Services. I believe you're local as well. What's up, Fernie Foo53? Thank you so much for joining. Do I work on motorcycles? Ask Opie Kopi from YouTube. No, I do not. I think Jonathan and I had a little discussion not too long ago about this, but I kind of prefer to have 4 wheels on ground opposed to 2. Even when I went on a game show and won 2 motorcycles, I quickly trade those in for a trike. I'm not a big bike guy. I love the speed and performance that exists in motorcycles. I took a page from their book many times for some of my project builds for my own motor setups when I used to do a lot of drag racing, but I just can't do the 2-wheel thing. And many times it's not because I hate bikes. I couldn't enjoy it, not because I'd be a bad driver or not because my friends are bad drivers, but a lot of people around motorcyclists are very rude. They're very mean to them. I've seen people open doors on them. I've seen people swerve into the lanes. You can be the best motorcycle driver on the planet, and some unfortunate circumstance could put you in a position where a driver on the road is not as careful and hurts you. So because of that, I'm not a big fan of that indeed, you know? Zakira Shah is asking a good question here on YouTube. How do you build a budget for a particular project car? Or do you build without a budget in mind? No, 100% of the time, we want to begin with the end in mind, begin with a budget. So whether it's an in-house project and it's coming out of pocket with money I saved up myself, or a project for an OEM or a partner, we typically have a budget in mind and then kind of reverse engineer from there what we can achieve with said budget. So building a budget starts with that, either my own personal savings for my own passion projects, or if I'm partnering with a company that needs us to build something unique for them, or an individual who wants something, we kind of have a budget from them and then work backwards. And if we get to a point where that budget is exceeded, let's say we find something a little bit more challenging on the build, it's either I myself have to come out of pocket or kind of put that on the back burner a little bit, or with a client, let him or her know, hey, here's what we're experiencing, and would you like us to continue with a slight increase in the budget? And that's it, you know? So how did you fit the turbos on the Boxster, says Senna. Very much in Bisimoto fashion, where I have them hanging in the rear of the vehicle. I use the oil feed from the pressure switch on the Porsche as a feed, and I tee them off to each turbo. I've done 2 ways in terms of draining. Each time I'll have a vented drain container for the oil, or catch can. And then I have used everything, like on the blue Porsche, a scavenge pump, or I take advantage of the scavenge heads on the flat 6 engines and kind of just send oil to that. And that's what I typically do. I like to have the turbos in the rear and show off. Not only does it look pretty cool, it does added some weight distribution as well. And yeah, works quite nicely. And then in many of my vehicles, I do eliminate MAF and use some type of engine management solution to make sure that it operates in the alpha N configuration, like a mixture of alpha N and speed density. My earlier stuff is speed density. I like the alpha N stuff because it gives me a little bit more sensitivity with throttle input. So I hope that helps. Okay, Venezuela in the house, courtesy of Los Mara, how do you say this? Los Mars Rapid Dos, I don't know how you said VZLA. It's got a lot. But anyway, Thanks so much for joining all the way from Venezuela. Hopefully I didn't massacre your name too badly. Amir, good seeing you, brother. How are you? Hopefully you are doing quite well. Thank you for joining indeed. All right, time is flying. It's already 41 minutes in. So the pedal commander is a lie. That's so interesting. Thank you so much. I would say it's a lie. It does, as the name implies, pedal commander. So it does that. I can give you some insight into what I compared it to earlier on. The VFC was something that happened before with Honda's early in the day when we didn't have full standalones. And what it would do is, you know how most factory ECUs from like OBD0 back in the day would monitor fueling based upon the inputs from the MAP sensor or a MAF or mass airflow sensor. What the AFC would do is intercept that. So if you want to give you more fuel, it will send a reading to the ECU like your Moore throttle. And then in turn, that would automatically add more fuel to your setup, whether you're natural aspirated or even crazy boosted, right? Same thing with spacers for map sensors. It kind of tricks the system to make you think that you have a map sensor that has more range than it actually does. The bad thing about VFCs is because it's tethered to the fueling maps are also tethered to ignition maps. So many times when you're trying to get more fuel to your engine, you're concurrently reducing the amount of ignition timing to the setup, when many times you don't need to do that, right? In certain regions of your fueling map. So the same thing with pedal commander. All it does is spoofing the input from the throttle to tell the ECU that something else is happening to give you more speed per se, okay? So yes, I think you'll be happy with APR Flash and have a lot of success with it indeed. So I see two of the same questions. I see Senna asking, how did you modify the engine for the turbos? And then how did I fit the turbos on the Boxer? I shared that a moment ago, but modify the engine for the turbos, Senna, I've done two things. One, if it's a factory setup, I typically modify the cooling system with the, how should I say, thermostat. Because most thermostats for natural aspirated engines, whether you're Honda or Porsche, they tend to be designed for the heat exchange capabilities of a natural aspirated system with the heat that's incurred with those engines. So what I've done on all of my Porsche water-cooled setups, I tend to modify the thermostat by removing the center and keeping the disc in to help act as a restrictor to a lot more flow and a lot more cooling to allow things to be quite successful in that build. If it's a factory setup, I tend not to push the power too much. What I did with the Cayman 3.4 is I kind of stopped at 400 horsepower and left it there. And then I end up later on adding a little bit of E85 capability to allow for even more anti-detonation capabilities. And then when I had to push it further than that, I did very simple updates. Sleeving, forged pistons from Trom, our own custom rods, and our own custom valve train, and that was it. That's all I need to do. Now, of course, I'm taking consideration that you have to add more fueling to be able to do something with turbocharger. You can't use the factory small injectors. On low power builds, I do 1,000 cc's per cylinder. On the high horsepower builds, I do 2,200 cc Bosch injectors for that. And I've had great success with that indeed, Do you recommend, as one Shank J, methanol injection on mildly modified superchargers? Yes, I do. For two main reasons. One, I don't know if you guys know where the water methanol kind of thing came from. In some of the early world wars, there was scarcity of high octane fuels to allow for jet engines. So water methanol was one good, easy way, a water injection was an easy way to have anti-knock capabilities in fighter jets without having to have very high quality fuels. So that kind of transferred into automotive applications, whether you're diesel, high compression NA, or even supercharged or boosted turbocharged setups. Water methanol is a great way to be able to use an octane fuel, let's say like 91, 93, 87, and then use a combination, what I like to use 50-50 of lab grade methanol with water. You say, why not use pure methanol? Because it can easily catch on fire. The water 50-50 mixture by volume helps mitigate that problem. And inject into the intake tract to allow me for anti-knock properties. I end up making 850 horsepower on the earlier aero Porsche with two nozzles. I believe I used 500 cc nozzles in that. And with a progressive AM controller, I was able to make 850 horsepower all day, all night on 91 octane. It was fantastic. Now, So anti-knock properties and cooling your intake charge is one good thing with a supercharger, but here's something else that's really cool with superchargers. If you inject the water methanol pre-supercharger, you know your supercharger has all those crazy veins that exist? Water methanol can help kind of seal up and lubricate the veins of your supercharger. So not only does it allow your supercharger to work even better in terms of having those little small openings and gaps filled up with liquid that can help you create more cooler boost, it also helps lubricate your veins to allow you to make even more reliable power. So what I've done on some high horsepower supercharger setups is have a small nozzle pre-supercharger and another one post. If you don't have that capability just because of your how should I say, architecture, your engine bay, having about 6 inches prior to the throttle body is a great way. I tend to apply my nozzle, instead of a 90 degree, I tend to kind of tilt it a little bit away. So when the air coming in blasts it, it can help atomize the water methanol matrix even better and help for better distribution. It's great stuff. I just love it. And if you have a hard time getting some water methanol kits, I think we may have some in stock here at Bisimoto. Just hit us up and we'll be more than happy to assist you. My pleasure indeed, Senna. Well, guys, it is almost a full hour and it's just a blast having fun with all of you and answering your questions. I sincerely appreciate you guys joining me this Tech Tuesday. I'll be here next week for another great episode. In the meantime, follow me on YouTube if you haven't already. We have some really exciting things that go up every week on that channel. We also have some TikTok under Bisimoto ENG. We're also on X, you name it, we're everywhere. But for podcasting, as you may only have caught the last 14 minutes of this podcast, just do a search for Bisimoto on any of your favorite podcast networks, and you see a slew of all the things that we've discussed over the past few years. In the meantime, take care, everyone. Stay safe, and have a pleasant afternoon. Cheers. Bye-bye.